activist Greta Thunberg at the youth climate strike in New York City. WireImageMillions of people, mostly young students, from across 185 countries took to the streets of towns and cities around the world Friday, united across time zones and cultures to participate in the largest climate protest in history to demand urgent action from governments and every sector of society to save our planet. Accompanying the young protesters were adults supporting their pressing call, trade unions representing hundreds of millions of people, employees of all kinds including from firms such as Amazon, Google and Facebook, doctors, nurses and public workers marching alongside the students. Paris streets were mobbed, as were many others in the country. Photo: Zakaria Abdul-Kafiev, Getty Images. Thousands of students from across Philadelphia's school districts left the classes and gathered around City Hall before taking to the streets of downtown to protest climate inaction and demand real systemic action to deal with climate change. A photo via Getty Images. Young protesters in Mexico City. A photo via Getty Images. While local climate issues were emphasized in the different countries, for example, control of rising sea levels in the Solomon Islands, a ban on toxic waste and new mining in South Africa, controls on air pollution and plastic waste in India, Green New Deal in the US and UK, the global demand was unified around a single theme: cut emissions and stabilize the climate. The global demonstrations followed the sun, beginning in the Pacific and Asia and culminating in a massive demonstration in New York, with young Swedish activist and candidate for the Nobel Prize Greta Thunberg at the helm, on the eve of a UN climate summit to start next week at the organization's Manhattan headquarters, intended to inject urgency into government's actions to restrict the rise in global temperatures. Students protest outside the Capitol in Washington, D.C., chanting "Shame on you" to their national legislators. Photo: Astrid Recon. The Washington Post. Getty Images. Athens, Greece. Photo: Dimitris Lampropoulos. A photo via Getty Images. Frankfurt, Germany. Photo: Frank Rumpenhorst. DPA. Picture Lions via Getty Images. London. Protests. Photo: David E. Cliff. SOPA Images. Light rocket via Getty Images. Carbon emissions climbed to a record high last year, despite a warning from the UN-backed Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The Guardian wrote, "There is little more than a decade left to act to slash emissions and stabilize the climate." The strikes kicked off in Pacific Island nations, all threatened by rising sea levels, where students from Fiji, Samoa, Vanuatu, Kiribati, Tuvalu, Marshall Islands, Tonga, New Caledonia, the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea took part in poetry performances, silent protests, sporting events and discussions, and chanted, "We are not sinking, we are fighting." It was followed by Australia, a country already suffering from soaring temperatures and warming seas that have contributed to the death of half the Great Barrier Reef on the northeast coast, and where more than 350,000 people joined the protests. A protester in Kolkata, West Bengal, India. Photo: Ava Sheikh Das. SOPA Images. Light rocket via Getty Images. London. Photo: Dinandra Harrier. SOPA Images. Light rocket via Getty Images. Students protesting in Granada, Spain. Photo: Carlos Gil. SOPA Images. Light rocket via Getty Images. Thousands of school students at a climate strike rally in Sydney, Australia. Photo by Jenny Evans. Getty Images. Demonstrations spread throughout cities in Asia, Africa and the Americas. In Europe they took place in most countries, with huge crowds in Warsaw, Poland and more than 1.4 million people taking action across Germany, according to The Guardian, as protests took place in 500 towns and cities across Germany. The BBC reported, the country's coalition government announced a €54 billion, $60 billion package aimed at cutting greenhouse gases. In the UK, hundreds of thousands are believed to have taken part in cities across all 4 countries. In Paris, the climate marchers had to be halted after they were infiltrated by other protest groups like the Yellow Vests, and groups of anarchist demonstrators joined in, breaking windows and setting fire to street barricades. Violent clashes prompted French police to fire tear gas and make over 100 arrests in a huge security operation involving 7,000 police officers. People wearing masks stand behind barricades and electric scooters during clashes with riot police as part of a climate change protest in Paris. AFP. Getty Images. Thousands of New York City students walk out of school to take part in a march to demand action. Photo, Spencer Platt. Getty Images. Activists pretend to be hanged to death during a climate protests in Cali, Colombia. Photo, Luis Rubio. AFP. Getty Images. In New York, Greta Thunberg, who first staged a school strike for climate outside her national parliament in August last year, and whose actions have inspired other schoolchildren and adults around the world, was greeted like a rock star, with chants of Greta, resounding the round Battery Park. "This is an emergency," she warned demonstrators. "Our house is on fire. And it's not just the young people's house, we all live here, it affects all of us." Everywhere she has gone in the world, the empty promises are the same, the lies are the same, and the inaction is the same, she told the audience. The eyes of the world will be on leaders at the UN next week, and they have a chance to take leadership to prove they actually hear us, Greta admonished. Further climate strikes are expected next week during the UN summit. Thousands of parents and students took part in the march through Edinburgh, Scotland as part of the global climate strike movement. Photo, Stuart Kirby. SOPA Images. Light Rocket via Getty Images. Participants in Berlin. Protests were registered in over 400 cities across Germany. Photo, Major Haiti. Getty Images. Young protesters during the global strike for future in Brussels, Belgium. Photo, Thierry Monisset. Getty Images. Students during a protest against climate change in Mumbai, India. They joined a global movement protesting against the world's governments for criminal inaction on the ecological crisis. Photo, Himanshu Bhatt. Photo via Getty Images. Let's block ads. Why?